Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Jillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Easy Peasy Books podcast. Today, I have a returning friend in the house today, and she has been on my prior podcasts, not once, but twice. And this is the first time she's on this podcast. And I love that you're back here, Anna Bravington. You have the most posh name. I love it. I always love your name. I'm so in love with it. So before we get stuck in, can you please tell people who you are and what you do? And then we're going to start talking about books.
So, I'm Anna Bravington. I run a business called Creating the Curve, which also has a podcast. And you've been on my podcast in the past. And all I do is help business owners with the most difficult three things that they struggle with, which is getting their offer right, being visible, and being clear so people understand what they do.
I love that because that absolutely mirrors what your book is about. So it's just like you have done a very on-brand book. And before we start talking about your book, well, actually, let's just start off with your book, and then we're going to backtrack. We're going to go back in time because I'm going to ask you some questions about how it all came to be and how you prepared for it and everything that you took to do it along your author's journey. So first of all, can you tell us what your book is about? So I have it on my Kindle here. Building breaking. Why am I thinking Breaking Bad? I don't know what's going on in my brain. Building nobody wants. It's got an expletive with a little asterisk, but I wanted to make sure my podcast doesn't get a rating. So anyways, tell us about your book in the first place, because it is just recently released and I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, do you know, I looked back because I felt like I hadn't been writing it that long. And then I found a video recording who I recorded with Mark Schaefer, the author and marketing futurist, about 3 years ago, where I said, I really want to write a book. And he gave me lots of advice. And interestingly, back then I had a rewatch, and my book was actually about bias in data.
Wow.
And because I was really interested at the time, and I did a talk at a conference on it. And I thought, oh, actually, this would make a really interesting book, but I just didn't quite click. So I thought, actually, it's not really my job. I don't do about bias in data. It's just a pet habit. So I thought, well, my job, and at that time I was much more broader. I was trying to help businesses in all aspects, from ops to leadership, just all those little bits that they hate doing. And I started writing this book, and it was so broad. I thought, I don't know if I can market this to anyone. And as I was doing it, and then as I was doing my podcast, it was really interesting. I started seeing patterns. I'm a bit of a pattern spotter. And a lot of the issues ended up in these three areas, which was offer, clarity, and visibility. And so I started going, actually, these seem to be the problematic areas that people are having. And it's funny because you said it matches my business perfectly, but actually I've pivoted my business. When I started coming up with these ideas, I went, no, that's what I want to do with my business. These are the problem areas that most people have. And weirdly, the visibility one has probably been the most, I've had lots of founders sort of contact me and go, I feel invisible. That is my biggest one. And it's really interesting that since I changed, it's resonating, and everyone's going, I feel like I'm invisible. I've got this great product or service and no one can find me, and it's really hard. So it's been this weird journey over a few years that has been sort of business changing, getting my brain going. It's been brilliant. I highly recommend it for a complete thought process. Building a book makes you think about what you're offering.
Oh, that's brilliant. And you think about it and it's true because it's always been if you really want to understand something, teach it to somebody else because
Mm.
you have to then say, okay, well, what's important, what's not important, because you can't tell them everything. You have to just kind of hone it down. And the more you hone it down, the more clear you get yourself so that you can repeat it to others. So a novel thing, pun intended, but it's not a novel. But anyways, what a cool thing that you went from writing the book to even reshaping your business. And I agree with you of looking and seeing the patterns of, because that's how people should really do their entire content is have your pillars. And I love that you have such a simple framework because I love framework books. I think they never
Mm.
go out of style. It's not like, okay, let me do a book of like, showing you how to use LinkedIn. And it's like before you publish, the darn thing is out of date, because things are going to change, right? But a framework book, that to me, it's evergreen. It's a problem.
Mm.
People are going to have it 5 years from now and 50 years from now. It's something that's there. And I love that your framework, it's so simple. And you even say, and if you're having a problem figuring out which one is this, let me help you, so it's like
Yeah.
you're very encouraging the way you write. You're a very good writer, Anna. So
Thank
commend,
you. Thank you.
commending you for that.
I do a lot of dictation as well, which I think
Mm,
helps because I feel like it comes out a bit warmer and how I speak. There are some bits in there when I'm an ex-copywriter and PR, and I look and go, oh, I probably wouldn't have written it like that. But actually, I like how it sounds because it sounds like I'm having a conversation with someone.
exactly. And, I think if you're a podcaster or if
Mm.
you're somebody who loves like I took one of my books and never wrote a word. Everything was spoken. I was sick. So I kept having all these great ideas. So I just kept picking up my phone and saying, "Oh, what about this?" And off I'd go, and then I tidied it up later, but I never sat there with that blank page going, I wonder what I'll put in this chapter." I never had that because boom, 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 the ideas just came to me and I picked up my phone and it comes out so natural. So, and I think
Mm.
if you got the gift of gab anyways, because you're a podcaster, it just it makes sense. So you mentioned a very key person, which was Mark Schaefer. And I know he's a mentor of yours. And I know that you were on a previous, because you came on my podcast and talked about it. Coincidentally, the first time you were on my podcast, it was about launching a podcast. Now you're about launching a book. But before the one in the middle, you were talking about when you were part of a community writing a book with Mark Schaefer. So I always think everything we do is seeds for moving
Mhm.
forward. So can you tell people about what that was, and did that help you prepare for your solo project?
It did, yeah, it did help me. It's the most amazing marketing book ever, and we went for quite a grand title, didn't we? It was really nice to do it with other people because I am a learn by doing type person. I have ADHD and I am very much a kinesthetic learner, I think they call it. Have to learn by doing. So if I read stuff, if I'm not doing it there and then, I just sort of forget how to do it. So as we did this book together, I'm like, now we're going to do the cover. And now we're going to write the book and then we're all going to record our audio. It was really nice because I learned through doing. Some of the bits I missed though, when because they were done more behind the scenes, what the bits on Amazon and buying the ISBN. When I had to do it this time, I was like, oh my goodness, like it was just these little admin-y bits. I'm not very good with admin. They were, I think that was actually harder than writing the book.
Yes.
The cover design, all of that was really difficult. I'm glad I did it myself though, because I understand the process and what's behind it. Whether I'll do it myself again, I don't know. Maybe, but maybe I'll hire someone to do it. But having done that with a group of people, it felt like a safe space. And I highly recommend if you don't want to do your own book, doing it as part of it doesn't have to be, I think we were 35 people. It doesn't have to be 35. Could be just two or three friends. That is so much better and less lonely than going it alone. Although with this book, back to that community aspect, I had, like I said, Mark Schaefer, I had a call with him. He did my foreword. He also proofread my book for me. I had a couple of other people from my community proofread my book. My VA proofread my book. I had loads and loads of support. This isn't a solo effort. In my acknowledgements at the back, I use the thing. It's similar to, you need a village to raise a child, but it's a community to raise a business. I always think businesses are more, they're sort of easier to run if you are part of a community. And even the launch. So Matt Wilkinson from the Rise community, he launched his book yesterday. So we did a LinkedIn Live last week. We've been cheering each other on. We've all been sharing each other's books. So all of that has made it so much easier than doing on my own. And I feel, as much as I did love doing a chapter in the other book, and it was amazing to be part of it, it was an easy way to get a book out for me, because it felt like a blog post. I could write a blog post, although I've never tweeted a blog post as much as I tweet that chapter. And it was so hard. So writing a whole book on my own feels like just more of a personal achievement, and I've got it out there in the world. So they're all really different, but if you can't do something on your own, like, try an easier step first is so much better.
I love that. And I think that is a very natural first step, especially for somebody who's like, I'm not sure if I even want to commit to a whole book, and but when you actually get your book up on Amazon, it's quite a thrill. You just kind of go, oh, and I love I think somewhere I might have seen on your website, you referred to the first one as a smidgen of a book. And then you refer to this one as, this is my real book. And it's a wonderful feeling. But I love that, because sometimes we do just need to learn in baby steps. And what a great opportunity to be, exposed to every bit of, like, okay, now we're going to do the cover, and now we're going to do this. And you're so right about the whole, like, you think, oh, I've got the manuscript done. So, which kind of, it's a big deal in itself, because maybe you had it edited and proofread and, all sorts of different things. Maybe you had, reader feedback, and you had to go back and, oh, now how do I incorporate all this great feedback? And then you think, oh, okay, how hard can this next step be? And you're just like, and there's so many decisions. It's like, what's digital rights management? What box do I, all those like little things that you're like, I didn't know that I didn't know. Yeah, you got to learn. And it's like, oh, the Amazon ISBN, or buying your own. And, and I messed one of mine up, and it was just like, some parts are not forgiving and some parts are forgiving. So it's just like, there's a lot. It's scary. It's scary. So going back to, so we talked, it's just funny. I was remembering that, you had two podcasts, not consecutively. And I remember being a guest on your first podcast, which was crossing the chasm,
crossing the content chasm. Yeah.
There we go. And I remember I was a guest on that, and that was back when I was doing video, and we were talking about the power of repurposing content. And, and I said, I don't think we should just take a video or a live and be one and done. It's like, we have content. And then from then I began making my own podcast, because I thought, well, I need to practice what I preach. So I was doing all these lives, and I went, why don't I turn them into a podcast? And then I went, oh, okay. When it came time to do books, it was like, well, why don't I take that podcast content and turn it into a book? So I'm just wondering, as a fellow podcaster with, as many episodes as you have under your belt, with 2 in a row, did you use any of your own content in your book, or were you a right from scratch person?
Oh no, I used a lot of previous content. I'm not a blank page type of person. I really struggle with that. And I know a lot of people do. And I think the reason I took so long is because I started my second podcast about a year ago. And so as I was having these conversations, they were really valuable. And so I think I was like data gathering in my head about how, what content I should do. And this is one place that AI is actually really useful, because over the 2 podcasts, I had 90 episodes, and I did not have 90 hours to sit back through my podcast, but I knew some of the stories that were in there. So I basically transcribed them all, uploaded them. I can't remember if it was Claude or ChatGPT at the time. and said, pull me out the bits of the transcriptions, so just the bit of stories. And I said, these are the stories. But then I said, I'm sure there's a couple in there that I've missed. Pull those out as well. And all it did was come back with this big load of bits of transcriptions. It's not perfect. It missed a couple, but it did a lot of work for me. And then what I did is I took my transcriptions and I started sort of piecing them and plopping them together. Or this kind of goes together. This might go together. Oh, this story that I told, that might go there. And then the sort of chapters started forming of what I wanted to talk about. And so, and then what I did is I tried to infill those with some stories of things that I'd experienced in my career that might sort of reflect how that might work in the real world. And then I had a load of workbooks. So then I started pulling out a few tips and advice from my workbooks that I'd written. So I didn't have to start with a blank page. And I think you're right that if you've got that content anywhere, even if it's blogging, I know some people that start a blog and write that for a few years and then use that for a book. It doesn't mean you have to start from a blank page, and it's so much easier. And then I just sort of tried to tie, I like sort of pop references and pop culture. So there's things about Only Fools and Horses, which is a UK sitcom. I think there was the Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner put in there, and a few other different pop references. So I was like, oh, that's quite a nice, fun example to put there. And then there's a dating story in there. There's all random stuff that I think highlights. And then I thought about who I know about in my life and just picked a few of those to sort of highlight some of the points as well. And then I've kept a few back because I want to do another book soon as well, more about the visibility side, because that is the one that seems to be resonating so much. So I've kept a few people back so that I can have some for the next side. I feel like you're going to be a great example of visibility. So you're gonna have to go in there. So yeah, it was just a sort of patchwork of building things up. Because when I tried to write it from scratch, I just sat there and I was like, I don't know where to start. It's too overwhelming. It's too big. Whereas if you pop it together, and that's one of the tips that Mark Shaford gave me, find data, find stories, find insight, pop it all together, sit with it for a bit, and then it will sort of start telling the story, which was invaluable advice.
I love that. And he's absolutely right. And I tell people, not just your own content, like, because we all have blog posts. We've done LinkedIn articles. If you didn't do, I do both, for my website and LinkedIn, but also too, I have, my own 2 podcasts, but also too, every single time I am on somebody's show, I always go, and I know I'm a pest, but I'll say, can I have the recording? Because I want the transcript, it's
Yeah.
yes, you could make video clips and, wonderful promo things and stuff like that. But I just go, but that's my best expertise when I'm on somebody else's show, because now they're asking me questions. Because usually on a podcast, unless it's a solo, I'm usually asking questions. So I'm not sharing as many stories. So, that's gold. And it's not like somebody said, isn't that cheating? And I said, why would it be cheating? Because it's your expertise, anyways. And my sister, she makes quilts. And the first thing she does whenever she starts a quilt project is she goes to her sewing room and she says, what material do I already have? She doesn't go out to the quilt shop and buy new stuff. She's like, well, I got a lot of this and this would go with my, stuff from Australia. And she just kind of sees how it all goes together. And that's exactly what you described, what a quilter would do. And the patchwork and little bit of this, little bit of that. And then you just go, oh my gosh, look at how this has all come together. And it's so unique. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And I'm glad that Mark Schaefer agrees with me. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. So I wanted to ask you, you had said in the beginning that when you first started thinking of a book 3 years ago, you started to go, oh my goodness, that's so broad. Is this gonna appeal to anybody? And I think that's always the thing that we need to think about when we're writing a book is, who are we writing this book for? Because if we write to everybody, we're writing to nobody, and we really have to dial that in. So can you tell me, who's your ideal reader? Who do you envision this book is for? And did you do that all the way through? Or did you start with, did you begin with the end in mind, that this is who book is for? Or do you just know that now?
when I started this final iteration, I knew I had a very, very specific person in mind. It kind of reflects people I've been working with because I do coaching. And it was a hands-on founder. And by what I mean by that is someone who doesn't set up a business just to run a business, you know, like the Richard Bransons and that of the world and these sort of entrepreneurial types. It's a hands-on founder is someone who does something that they love. Could be accountancy, architecture, software coding. They've actually started a business to do the thing they love. So they're hands-on day to day in the client work, customer work, building something, like I said, making a quilt or coding some software, whatever it is, they are hands-on doing the thing they love. And what I found is that they tend to find it the hardest to market and sell their business because what they wanted to do is do a business to do the thing they love. They do not love marketing. They do not love sales. They do not love accounts. Well, the occasional one loves marketing. It depends, you know, if you're luckily got an extroverted personality, you know, sometimes people do. But I found probably about 90% or more of the people that I worked with hate all of those. They hate operations, HR, all of those. I just want to code. And interestingly, I use a guy called Frank Prendergast. He had I've obviously been on here on one of yours before. So Frank has it's a GPT called the Voice of the Customer. And what you do is you put in all about your business and it goes out on the internet and does research on places like Reddit to find out how people are actually physically talking about these things. And I knew that people didn't like marketing sales, but actually what I got back, and this kind of tilted the title of the book, there was a lot of swearing involved. I effing hate marketing. So I was like, yeah, I building something is hard. Having to sell it is even worse. Hate's often in capital letters. It was this real visceral reaction to this having to do stuff they didn't want to do. I want to code. I want to design, but I don't want to do this rest. And it felt like they were being forced to do this. So there was a very particular founder, a very particular mindset that was my niche. It wasn't so much an industry. It was I want to do my thing and I don't want to do all this rubbish around it that I absolutely hate. And the idea was that the book would just give them some guidance on how to do some of these bits as easily as possible to make them be able to sell, but basically until they either just get a momentum of sales or they get enough sales so that they can hire someone. So that was the idea. It's not to turn them into a marketeer or a positioning expert or someone who's a copywriter. It's to give them enough skills. And we do use AI prompts in there as well to give them a little bit of a helping hand, because I know what it's like as a founder. You don't always have time. So things like SWOT and pestle analysis, you can use an AI prompt to just get them started. So I've just tried to make it easy on people. And that's why I want to stick to 3 topics as well, because if I told them 20 topics, that's just overwhelming. So I've been that founder myself. So I kind of feel for them. So I was kind of thinking a little bit selfishly of myself as well. What would I like to hear?
Mhm. And, I often tell people that sometimes we're writing for yesterday me. This is
Mhm.
the book I needed 5 years ago, which would have saved me the last 5 years in ripping out my hair and, never seeing my family because I work so hard and I'm not getting anything done. And so I think that's really good to know who you're helping, because that's the pain point. And I think your book is really going to be a great bridge of, I'm not happy where I am. This is how, this is where I want to get to. The book is the bridge to get me there, because then I can figure out, what am I doing wrong? Because continuing to do the same thing over and over again, but you're not really addressing the problem, you're just not going to make any difference. So, and it's such a simple framework, 3 things. I've always believed 3 is a magic number. So it's kind of like, it's less intimidating, because like even 7 steps, it's like, oh, that's a lot. It's like, I'm going to have to wait till I'm on vacation to read this one. I don't have time in my life for 7 steps, but 3, I think we can just go, yeah, because it's like, and it's might just be one of those 3 is the problem. And I like that you say could be all 3. If it's all 3, you got a lot more work to do. But it's like, maybe it's just one of them, maybe it's two of them. So that kind of gives us hope. And I think your book is really good about imparting that hope to people. So I think that's really, really good. So my question would be, how'd you come up with the title? Because it's such a bold title. So is there a story in there?
I'm an ex-programmer, and it's used quite a lot in software development where for this very reason that a lot of software development, we are great at coming up with ideas and programs. I'm going to create a program and and so building no one wants. I beeped myself out there, didn't I? Beep. it's it's it was around it's a term that is used in that industry because people build stuff and they're like, oh, I've built something no one wants, but actually I'm an ex-coder. When you are coding, like, you like to code and that's what you like to do, same as the other founders, and you don't want to sell stuff. You're not a marketer. And actually a lot of people that were in my industry were much more introverted. There was a lot of neurodivergence as well, so people just struggled to get past that more than most businesses. And actually, initially, this book, actually, there was a small few minutes where I was going to just aim this at just STEM founders and technical founders. But then I realized that actually it was more the hands-on doers just generally that had this problem. I didn't want to niche it down too much because I would say software is the place that has the most problem. And there's so many exciting bits of software out there. And I work with people every day, innovators, creating these amazing things. And I'm like, oh, go and tell someone about it. Oh, no, I'll just write another bit of software first instead of actually telling, because that's our comfort zone. We always go back to our comfort zone. Even me, I seem outgoing, but actually I'm a natural introvert. And sometimes I'll be like, I'm too overwhelmed to do something. So I'm just going to go and tweak my website for the rest of the day. Did that get really sales? No, of course it didn't, but it's my comfort zone. And I was happy there. And you can do that occasionally, but some people spend their lives doing that. And I think this is a nudge to just, like you say, give them a little something to get out of that comfort zone. So we're not doing the busy work where we're comfortable. It feels like we're being productive, but actually we're not really getting anywhere.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So, one of the things I saw is that you actually have resources that, like, like you talked about AI prompts, and so can you kind of tell us about how you decided to incorporate that? Because you got to think that through, because you're like, okay, the book's gonna live, and yeah, we can muck with the Kindle version, but we can't muck with the print version. So once it's out there in the world, it's like I've got to I got to make good on this promise. So how did you kind of come up with that idea of like, oh, I want to have these like little helpers?
It's funny, actually. I've just been teaching a 12-week marketing course, and it's amazing how much stuff, even as a marketeer, I forget. And we were talking through the marketing funnel. I was like, oh God, I really do need some sort of marketing funnel for my book, really. So I thought, when I was reading the book, I thought, actually, how are people going to copy these prompts when, because there's quite long prompts in there, because I do like a chunky prompt. And so I thought, oh, actually, how are they going to do that? So I thought, actually, first thing I need to offer is a free resource where people can literally copy and paste the prompts. And also in each section, there's a try this section. And I thought, if I put the try this, which is like tasks you can do each week, if I put them and the prompts together, that's kind of like the doing things. So that they've got a little place where instead of flicking through the book, they can do stuff. And then I was speaking to said, oh, sometimes I just struggle to do the work on my own. And I thought, actually, maybe some people need something else. So then it's a little set of paid for workbooks, not very expensive, just a one-off payment. And I thought, actually, let's do some workbooks where you can go through each page, ask your question, you fill it out, and then you go on to the next one. Because back to that blank page, some people struggle with a blank page. And even a book can be a little bit overwhelming, even if it's in easy steps. So the workbooks are people, like myself, got ADHD, that I just need something in front of me that I can fill in a box that says, write this here. And so I thought about, when I'm writing stuff, I try to think about different brain types and different ways that we do stuff. So I'm going to, hopefully we'll talk about the audiobooks, weren't we, on LinkedIn. I'm hopefully going to do an audiobook because I I read almost exclusively listen to audiobooks because I am always on the go. I struggle to sit down a lot of the time these days. So I'm going to try and do an audiobook as well so that I can cater for different brain types, because in business, I want everyone to be able to get help, not just the ones that can read my book. You know, if you're a listener, then I want you to be able to get help too.
Wow, that's beautiful, and I'm exactly the same way. I recognize everybody learns differently, and that's why I think as many formats as we can put out there, we should. It's like we should have Kindle for people like me,
Mm.
digital nomads. It's like I got my iPad, that's how I read. But I too, I'm a fan of audiobooks, but I also I like a paperback and hardback in my hand as well. So I think we have to appeal to all the different ways people
Mm.
can consume their books. And, the wonderful thing now is that the audiobooks and the Kindle books can actually go together through WhisperSync. And so that's good when people want to kind of keep trading on and off. So that's great. So we have come to the end of our time. I can't believe how fast this went. It's just so exciting. So any final takeaway that you'd want to, share with everybody, that it's like, okay, if you're thinking about doing a book, Anna says this.
Do you know what? I was talking with this about Matt, who's done his book this week. And the one thing that we said we were really sad about is there is so much knowledge that is in people that isn't in the world. You know, I speak to the most knowledgeable people, and if you don't know them locally, no one knows their knowledge. And actually, I would really love to see more people write a book. And back to this, do it however you can, dictate, do it as a community. I know there's a big backlash about AI for books, but done well, I think it potentially could work. You know, if you're a subject matter expert, and back to that, where you use your subject matter, you talk at it. I feel like I want to see this knowledge in the world. And I would love to read more books that people put out. Anyone in my circle, I've got your book, Gillian. I absolutely loved it because I'm writing my next book. So I was like, I'm going to read through this to pick out my topic for my next book. So anyone that has that knowledge, and the thing is, like, your book is lovely size. You know, it's for someone with an ADHD brain. It's nice and pocket size. I can read it fairly quickly. Matt's book, who was out this week, his is about quarter of the length of mine. So there's no preconception of what size a book needs to be either. I think with these things, put all the preconceptions out and see what you can get out. Dictate it, write it. If it's 20 pages, it's 20 pages, but that's 20 pages of gold. Yeah, I want to see everyone's knowledge. Don't keep it, share it with the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Very inspiring and very encouraging. So thank you very much. So Anna, thank you for being here today, sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge, and now sharing your book. So this is just so exciting. I'm wishing you all the very, very best as it goes out there in the world, little soldier books going out and making a difference. And I think it's just a wonderful ripple effect, because I believe everybody has a book in them. I truly do, because we've all learned lessons, and we just want to share those lessons, because what you have, somebody else is waiting to, like, oh, you've saved me so much time by writing this book. So anyways, thank you for being here today. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened. And I hope you'll be back here for another edition of the Easy Peasy Books podcast. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, from author to authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.